Hello, people. This is the fourth episode of my audiobook series. Today, we'll be going over Chapter 4, Volume 1, and Chapter 4, Volume 2. Let's begin. Chapter 4, Volume 1, Upside Down. Act 1, The Beginning. Nick had jumped into this new universe with some excitement because he found out the year was 1957. And decided he would make this world a way stop for a while. He quickly found a family to live with, and decided. Then he learned that they were moving to Hawkins, Indiana. And with this, Nick realized what universe he was in. He realized he was now in Vecna, or aka Henry Krill's family, and told himself, maybe if I do his mom's job for her, he won't turn out as bad as he did in the show. And so they moved into the Krill house. Nick didn't bother to learn his new sisters or parents' names because he knew what was going to happen soon. Nick knew he couldn't hide who he was from Henry, so he told him everything, but was able to show him by putting themselves in the memories. Then Henry asked, "Why would you show me all of this if you know what I might do with this info?" "Because I know I couldn't hide anything from you. And also, I think not being able to die is the universe's way of punishing me." One day, in the attic, Nick found Henry drawing the mind flare and walked up behind him and said, "Damn, I wish I could draw like that. Think you'd be able to teach me? Also, meet me in the backyard at midnight." "Sure, Nick, I'll teach you how to draw like this, but I must ask, what are we going to do in the backyard at midnight?" asked Henry. "I've been planning a visit to New Mordor's capital, and I thought you'd like to tag along and see technology you could only dream of," Nick said. "Sounds interesting. Anyway, I guess your drawing lesson starts now," Henry replied. Later that night, Nick and Henry went to New Mordor controlled space in the universe of Horizon Forbidden West. While they were there, Henry seemingly took an interest in the ships of the Navy and Army. Then Nick turned to him and said, "Henry, I know what you're planning to do to Mom and our sister. But just know this. I'm neutral in this situation. And also, before you do that, there's one more thing I want you to teach me how to gain your powers. I know I have them from 2 universes ago, but I haven't figured out how to fully use them to my potential." Then Nick and Henry went back home. Henry taught Nick how to use his full potential. Then he executed his plan, leaving Nick once again an orphan. But over the next 20 some odd years, he grew stronger with practice and patience until he entered the friend group of One Will Byers in the year 1985. It had been like it had been what seemed like forever since the massacre at Hawkins' lab, as Vecna roamed the wastes of a strange world full of new things. And he had just found a large black cloud and created a mind flare. As he observed his creation, he heard multiple loud popping roaring sounds as 20 large black cloudy voids with red lightning spouting from them appeared. Then, from these clouds, one by one, started to glow a faint red. Then, large triangular black objects came from them, and above the mind flares, above the mind flare, a larger cloud appeared, and from out of it came the largest object he had ever seen. Then he realized what was happening and thought to himself, "Nick, you crazy bastard. What are you planning? From what I've learned in the capital, that seems like an invasion force instead of an expedition force. How, and how did you figure out to enter whatever this is without doing what 11 did? You know that? Vecna decided he would try to contact Nick in the future and continue with his plans. Present day, 1986. It's now the spring break of 1986, and Nick was still living with the Byers, and he knew that this would not be so for long, as Eleven would have her little incident at the roller rink, and now she was on her way to the location of Nina. But Nick went with her to gather intelligence for himself. When they arrived and went down the elevator, Finn entered the main hall. When Dr. Owens would start talking to Eleven about ICBMs, he noticed Nick grimace at the mention of them and asked, "Nick, are you okay? You made a face when I was talking about what an intercontinental ballistic missile is." "Yes, I'm fine. Just have a bad history of these missile things. Nothing too bad, really, but whatever," Nick said, as memories of what happened in Mordor flashed in his head. Finway entered the main room. Nick heard a familiar voice call out, "Hello, 11. Nick turned to see Dr. Brenner standing on the stairs. Then from behind him he heard frantic running footsteps, and he turned around to see 11 running, when all of a sudden Nick reached out with his right hand and froze her in place and said, "11, calm down. Sure is a reasonable explanation to how and why he's here." Then, from out of a corner, someone came up to her and injected her with tranquilizer, and Nick let her fall free as she fell to the ground. And she fell to the ground. Then, from behind him, he heard multiple voices say, "What the fuck did you just do?" When Dr. Brenner spoke up and said, "And we are graced by the visit of Henry's brother, Nicholas Krill." "Nick, why are you here?" Do- Dr. What? Did Mr. Owens not tell you I was coming? Also, what did I tell you about calling me that? I thought all the Krills were supposed to be murdered by Victor, Nick said. "Well, we both know what really happened, but but I didn't know you could do the same stuff him and 11 could do. How did you..." Dr. Bruno was interrupted by Nick saying, "Yeah, short story. Henry taught me the basics, and over 29 years I slowly gained more power, and I'm not one to be messed with. But anyways, I'll tell you guys more later." Where is it? Over the next few days, Nick gathered enough info and data he could, then called for a dropship to take him directly to Hawkins. After telling everyone that he was going there to assist the group in Hawkins. And when he got there, he decided to go directly to the Krill house, where the group in Hawkins was. And when he got there, everyone was surprised by his sudden appearance. Finney explained why he was there. Finney told everyone to leave as he went to walk in the woods. When all of a sudden, he heard the chime of the clock and said, "Okay, Henry, I get it. Very funny. You see him back. Just come out and pop out of nowhere, Spider-Man." Then Nick heard in a deep voice say, "Okay, Dragon Boy." Hey, hey, it's not my fault I think dragons and other animals of that nature are cool, Nick said in retaliation. "Yeah, says the one who has a crush on a dragon, some from fucking video game on a computer." Henry said. Damn it, why did you mention that? You know what? Maybe I shouldn't have showed you my memories. But you know what? You win this time. Me, 0. You, 1. Henry looked at Nick and asked, So, about the 10 to 20 capital ships flying around the Upside Down. Is that your doing? Because they've been creating facilities and bases all over the place. Yes, I've been planning something for a long time, but I'm not sure how would you would you what you would how you would react. But we'll see how you react. Nick said. Well, what is it? Henry asked. Just worry about your own plan for now, and just make sure you send nothing through your portal, and it will be good. We don't want friendly fire. Nick said. Well, okay, well, guess we'll talk later, Henry said. Sounds good. See you around, Henry, Nick said. After this conversation, Nick would wait a few days until it was time to go find the portal to the Upside Down that was underwater. And when everyone had to go through it, he went with them. And after they fought off the demo bats, they looked around and Nancy said, What the fuck are those? Pointing at the starships flying in formation. Then a formation of three fighters flew overhead. Nick radioed them in secret not to call in anything and maintained radio silence as Nick and the group walked to another portal. Nick Nick broke away and walked to the Creel house and made himself undetectable by any means. Then he quietly entered the house, finding the attic, then waiting until after Vecna was done explaining to Nancy what his plan was. Nick emerged from the shadows and said, startling him, I told you we'd talk to each other again. How long have you been there? Henry asked. Let's see. About 5 minutes waiting for you to stop monologuing like your plan, like a villain in a TV show or movie or some shit. Nick said. Oh, and now you want to talk about your plan? Henry said. Yeah, yes. How did you know? Oh, yeah, I forgot. We could both see each other's minds. How can I forget something like that? Like, how can I forget such an important thing as that? After that, Nick explained his plan to Vecna and told him about a new weapon system he put in orbit codenamed Zeus. It was an experimental plasma railgun with tuning to the amount of energy in a shot could produce an explosion akin to a thermonuclear warhead, or split into multiple shots after firing to create a cluster of death. And soon enough, the main characters of Stranger Things would try to kill Vecna. When they were when they were ambushed by new Midorian soldiers during the plan, then taken to cryo storage facilities, along with Hopper, Joyce, and Murray. After they rescued him from the U- after they rescued them from the USSR, then while Eleven and Vecna were fighting, Nick popped up, froze Eleven, and told someone to prepare a firing sequence on Hawkins and make sure the round enters the lab's basement before detonating and begin phase 2 of the plan. 11, very upset, said, Nick, how could you betray us like this? Then Nick said, 11, I don't do this with a light heart, but it has to be done. Do you not see what this world has become? You saw what Brenner wanted to do with weaponizing innocent children. And for that, we must restart from zero. So now, I hope you understand that I don't want this world to remember the horrors of that lab, or that stupid, arrogant doctor. Now, I will be sending you to a cryo storage facility, and I'll make sure that this world is rejuvenated without all of this stupid bullshit. Then Nick left. Then 11 people who were with her were taken to a separate cryo storage facility nearby. When the when the four portals combined, they formed a target marker. Then Nick from a hillside watched as something that looked like a shooting star get brighter and brighter. Then all of a sudden there was a blinding flash. Then Nick was hit by a shockwave that leveled everything around him. And with this, the end of the world was set into motion. And Nick wondered, what would it what will it take until he finally broke down? Hint, not much more. Act 2. The end of time. It had been 8 months since Hawkins was blown to Kingdom Come, and the full force of New Mordor's military might was unleashed upon the world. After the machines consumed biomass and replicated, there were even more, as well as New Mordorian Air Force and normal, no robot units swept through city after city, state after state, country after country, destroying all in their path. But during these last few days of this war, Nick was flying a prototype aircraft under the code name Demobat. With it came a new development. Strapped to the top of it was a large, blocky housing unit for a smaller jump drive. But for safety concerns, a second one was made and stored on Nick's ship. The cockpit of Nick's plane shouted a warning that a missile was on his tail. Nick quickly evaded it and continued fighting. This was the final battle. The Battle of Las Vegas. Nick could barely hear over the constant radio chatter when all of a sudden he saw his ship. He saw his ship explode into a ball of fire, and Nick heard that somehow the people they were fighting managed to get a singular nuke to launch and fly into the hangar bay, then detonate. Nick watched as his ship plummeted to the ground. Then he called in a cluster of Zeus strikes around the city. Nick then put his plane on a different ship, then returned to the battlefield on the ground. When the Zeus strikes came thundering down, ending the war. After the battle, everyone left. Nick told one of his advisors, activate the Zero Dawn protocol. Then Nick just disappeared like a phantom. Nobody would, nobody could locate him. Not even Vecna. And so everyone waited to see what would unfold. Over time, the world was reborn, and humanity was back in tribes. Chapter 4, Volume 2. Act 1. Lost to Time. Toy, for as long as he could remember, was an outcast of the tribe Stonewalls. He had no friends, no real parents that he knew of. From what he was told by some of the tribe's people, is that they found him as a child alone in a cave near a large steel wall made of what looked like sections. and when they approached, they heard a voice say something they could not make sense of. Finn ran out of the cave with him. Today, Toib decided he would go see this cave for himself, and when he went to the cave, he found himself in front of a metal wall. When on the ground, he noticed a small triangular object on the ground, covered in dirt. Toib instinctively wiped it off and put it on his head near his ear, when all of a sudden, the world around him lit up in purple triangle shapes. In front of him there were the words, sat in midair reading, "Powering on." Finny went to touch the letters, but they disappeared and were replaced with strange symbols. Toib decided he would mess with it later, then approached the spot on the floor. When he approached the spot on the floor, the wall lit up with red light and a voice said, "Please hold for identiscan." Nick, no, Toib froze and said, "Hello? Can you hear me? Are you God?" Then, after the light turned to bluish purple, the voice said, "Genetic profile confirmed. Hello, Nicholas McCone. Please step inside." Toib thought to himself as he walked into the wall that had opened for him. Who is Nicholas McCone? If it let me in, then he must have been my dad. Now I have to find him. And what is this place? Then Toib walked through the metal cave when he saw a sign that said "Control Room." Then he entered. Toib soon found that there were more objects he could use using his new object on his face. He learned what it was called. He learned was called a focus, and then he found a moving picture file on the desk. As he approached, he touched the symbol in front of him, and it activated, and a person that looked like a younger version of him, except in a black uniform, said, "Hello, I am Nicholas McCone, and if you are seeing this, that means something has gone wrong. You see, I messed up, and I did something I shouldn't have done because it wasn't me at the time. But that's a story for another time. You see this?" the person said as he put up his hand and an image appeared. "This is a map of the world and all the facilities connected here," he said, pointing at the western side of an area called the United States of America. "This is where the terraforming system Gaia is, and it has malfunctioned and self-destructed, and you need to fix it before the biosphere collapses. Because I'll be damned if this world dies again. Not after this long. This is your mission. Good luck. You will need it." Then the video ended. Toib studied the map and noticed a few things, like how an area called Ukraine, there was a large yellow circle that said Chernobyl exclusion zone, enter at own risk. And, and, and somewhere west of where he was, he saw a marked location that said Ground Zero. Then he saw an area known as Las Vegas. Then he saw the words Gaia Prime. He touched it only for it to say status inoperable. Please fix as soon as possible. And now he knew where to go. He left to try and do what he was told. 5 months later, Toib had reached the ruins of Las Vegas and decided to take refuge in a large building that looked like it fell from the sky. Once inside, he accidentally managed to repower it, and he learned that he was on a starship from the Numidorian Navy that went down during a past war. Then, Toib was told by the ship's AI his, that his mission was not possible without outside help, and the only way to get said help was to go to another dimension where the rest of New Mordor was. Then the AI said that there was still a prototype fighter with a jump drive on board on it was in working condition apart from the 1,000 years of degradation. And soon Toib took flight towards Ground Zero of where the war had started, and with some instruction, dimensions shifted into the Upside Down. Once he saw an airship, he went to it, and once over it, a voice called out to him over a radio saying,
Attention unidentified aircraft. This is New Midorian airspace. Who are you, and why are you in an older variant of our aircraft?
Toib looked out of his window to see another plane that looked like his, but newer, larger, and with a darker paint job next to him.
I'm looking for someone to help me with my mission of restarting the terraforming system.
Toib replied.
Okay, follow me then. We'll take you to our current leader.
Toib followed the new craft to land and was taken to a house on a hill. Then he was told to enter. When he was inside, he was greeted by someone named Henry Krill, and they talked about his mission, and he was told that recently had the SCP Foundation and people from another universe came who were also looking for Nick. After they got a distress call and made a plan to fix the terraforming system and find Nick. And with that, they set the plan into motion. Act 2 Awakening. The first part of the plan was to go to the Crow storage facilities for clues to Nick's location after fixing the terraforming system. At Crow storage facility Beta, they woke up the main characters that were Eleven's parents and friends, but found no clues to Nick's location. Then they went to Crow storage facility Alpha, and woke up Eleven. Eleven was confused why Vecna was saying that he was on her side now, and that they need to find Nick, but then they got a signal leading to another Crow storage facility. Crow storage facility Omega. And from Aloy's experience, she determined that's where Nick was, and it was underneath the ruins of Las Vegas. Once they found the entrance to it, they found a genetic locked door with metallic red lines, but the only person who could open the door genetically was SCP-682. Then, once everyone was inside, the door shut then sealed. Then they explored the facility. Scans from the ships above, around where the facility was, showed that the facility was larger than a standard crowd storage facility. And as the ground team was exploring, they got a warning from the ships above them that there appeared to be a power spike across the facility. Went over the intercom, a robotic voice said, "Attention, ship system starting." Then everyone realized why there was a reason why the facility was so large. It was a massive new starship. Then the voice came back and said, "Reactor online, engines online, life support online, shields online, sensor suite online, cloaking device online, Gaia machinery online, weapons online, Arsenal bird hangar online, Hangar 1 and Hangar 2 online, battleship docking bays online. All systems green. The bridge is ready, Captain." Then they entered a room to find a lone cryopod, and inside was Nick. Then Vecna said, "Well, fuck. This is a genetically locked pod that requires two people. Well, looks like we're not waking them up anytime soon." Then the ship's AI said, "Well, Nick did have a theory that's out there, but it was somehow a multi-universal genetic mishap happened because he was convinced that him and SCP-682 having the same abilities was not a coincidence. So maybe SCP-682 tried the first one, then Toib does the second one. Then SCP-682 put his paw on the device and winced in pain as it took a drop of blood. Then a few seconds passed and an indicator lit up green and said, "DNA match found." Then Toib tried on his end and it turned red. Then SCP-682 said, "Okay, who else has the same abilities as Nick that's in the room currently?" Then 11 and Nick looked at each other. Then the device. Then both elected to attempt. To everyone's surprise, when Vecna tried it a few seconds later, The indicator turned green, and then a loud hiss came from the pod, and everyone held their breath, as they had no idea how Nick would react in general to like 9 separate people that he knew just standing there in shock. Nick woke up and got out of the pod and looked around and said, "Okay, where the fuck is my coffee machine? And also, how do you guys wake me up?" After Nick found said coffee machine and had coffee, everyone explained to him. Sorry. Okay, calm down. It's just words on text. Nothing funny. After Nick found the coffee machine and had coffee, everyone explained what had happened. Then Nick went to the fridge and had the AI open the hangar doors and launch his new ship, the first of its type. The dreadnought New Mordor space naval vessel Maverick had begun its first flight. After entering the Upside Down's version of Hawkins that was now a large military base, the ship was loaded with crew members, new dropships, new fighters, and with that, Nick was ready to begin the Maverick's first voyage. Little did he know it would also be damn near its last. So, guys, that was Chapter 4, Volume 1, and for Volume 2. Hope you all enjoyed. I will upload this and then immediately start Chapter 5, Act 1. Just a warning though, Chapter 5 and the chapters after it will be broken up into acts because the acts are like going to be like long, like a whole chapter long. So be aware of that. Zaijian, goodbye. See y'all next time.